Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today's topic is going to be, hey Dan, will this work for me? I have X, Y, and Z medical diagnosis. So I guess the topic is, hey Dan, will this work for me? So I'll get to that in a minute. It's a gorgeous day. 2 days I'll be up in Vermont on Thursday. I plan to shoot up there, so hopefully we'll get some nice scenery for you. And hopefully the hotels at night will have good Wi-Fi so I can upload these videos. So if by chance you're missing a video, you'll know why. Because way up in the mountains of Vermont, not the greatest cell coverage, and who knows, hopefully the hotels we're staying at will have decent internet, so we'll see. Gorgeous. So, hey Dan, will this work for me? So, depending on where you're at with your journey and your understanding of TMS, or what I refer to as perceived danger pain, I'll say maybe, right? And it's an unusual question, because usually they'll say, hey Dan, I really want to know if this will work for me. I have, and then they tell me their medical diagnosis. And it can be any number of hundreds of different medical labels, scientific terms. Well, I have this because of this structural abnormality. And really when the questions are posed in like a Facebook or a YouTube comment, or sometimes in an email, it's interesting, the folks don't even mention whether or not they're aware of this whole mind-body concept. If they've ever read anything by Sarno or some of the other experts out there, they don't say whether or not they've watched a lot of my videos. So it's hard for me to answer these questions because I don't know the context in which they're coming from. You know, some people may have just literally found me and says, oh, this guy talks about pain. Let me ask, will this work for me? And in that case, I'm going to say it depends. Depends on why you think you've got your symptoms or pains. If you think you've got your symptoms because you've got a bad knee, for example, it's not likely that my approach is going to work until you kind of relearn how pain works, what perceived danger pain is, or TMS, that the brain is creating the pain, and actually are willing to accept that and set aside the medical diagnosis, because that no longer makes sense, and what does make sense is TMS or PDP, perceived danger pain. So sometimes, you know, my answer to these people may frustrate them, because I'll say, well, what do you think is causing your dizziness, for example? And they'll say, well, I've got a thinning inner ear bone and I've had surgery on it, and you know, now I get flare-ups of vertigo and the chronic dizziness all the time. And so for that person, I'm going to suggest that that's the medical explanation. But what about the mind-body explanation? Are you aware of the fact that virtually any symptom can become learned or persistent / chronic with enough fear and attention given to it? I mean, that's just the way the system works. So it's really important, if you're asking that question, hey Dan, I've got X, Y, and Z medical diagnosis, is this stuff going to work for me? If you don't get a direct answer that says, yes, absolutely, that's because I don't know if you're open to the concept of the brain being responsible for the pain or other symptoms. Because if you're not open to that, you're going to be focused on your body all the time, and it's likely that you're not going to make too much headway. Because I'll have people say, Dan, well, I've tried the journaling and the meditation and the breath work and somatic tracking, and I'm not getting anywhere. It's not working. Why isn't this working? I'm doing everything right. Except they think they got a bad back. or a bad body, or a disc, or a knee, or a shoulder, or an inner ear for dizziness, or they believe they've got a gut issue which affects their digestion. So you can do all the processes you want, but if you don't have the foundation of understanding that most chronic symptoms are created in the brain, the vast majority are, it's going to be really tough to convince the brain, which is creating the symptoms, to turn them off. Right? Super important. And so, if you need help figuring that out, go to painfreeyou.com/start. Super important. Or go to painfreeyou.com and go to the Get Help menu and look for the Getting Started. Because on that page, there are some explanation videos as to how this stuff works. And there are 2 different assessments. One is a pain test, and another is the FIT assessment, which is created by medical doctors, Dr. Schubner, to help people determine if their symptoms are in fact created by the brain, thus TMS or PDP, perceived danger pain or symptoms. And once you get that clarity on how the system works, which is explained on the videos on that page, and you've done the assessments to rule in TMS or PDP, then you can ask the question, say, will this work for me? And if the indications in the assessments are that yes, it's TMS, then the answer to your question, will this work for me, is absolutely it can. And so it really has to start from beginning. Do you understand even the concept that the brain creates symptoms? Do you understand that I can't tell you if your symptoms are TMS or PDP, but you can figure that out with the assessments, because I don't understand, I don't have the context and the experience with you to know how your symptoms are behaving to be able to tell you. But you can figure that out with those assessments on my start page. And so it's pretty straightforward. You get a base level of understanding as to what's going on. You've already probably run the full gamut of medical appointments, diagnoses. Certainly have if you're coming at me with these really specific medical labels and diagnoses. Most likely you've already exhausted your efforts in the medical world. So now if you've ruled out anything significant or catastrophic there, now it's time to rule in TMS or PDP. Once you've done that, any opinion of the doctors that says, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that, it can be disregarded because it's not life-threatening. And oh, by the way, your symptoms are behaving like something that the brain is creating based on perceived danger and not a structural problem. Just coached somebody today who says, when they go on vacation, their pelvic pain, poof, it's gone. When they come home, poof, turns back on. When they hang out with their granddaughter, poof, the pain's gone. When they get back home, poof, pain comes back on. If that's not evidence that your body's already fine, I don't know what is. Because here's the deal. If it was a structural, physical problem, nerve issue, whatever, it wouldn't go away when you were more active on vacation or hanging out playing with your granddaughter. It would probably feel the same, maybe even worse with more activity. So, if you've got anything like that, do the assessments, figure out if there's any inconsistencies that just don't make sense under the guise of a structural body problem. Really important. And I keep on drilling and going back to this foundational, accurate knowledge of what's causing your symptoms, because without that, I don't care how well you journal, meditate, somatic track, do any of those things. If you still think your body's the problem, your brain is not likely to turn off the symptoms. The good news is the vast majority, most chronic symptoms are created by the brain in an effort to warn us and protect us from a perceived danger. So I hope this makes sense. Love you guys and gals, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.